FAME scheme, the faster adoption and manufacturing of electric and hybrid vehicles. After months of deliberation, after months of stakeholder discussion, it appears that FAME is back on track, this time by the way of FAME 3 and a greater allocation, not the 10,000 crore rupees that was earmarked for FAME 2, but 30,000 crore rupees. But this time, focus is not going to be just on subsidies, Kartik, is it?
That's right, Shweta. This again is a story broken in the papers. It's an exclusive source-based story, so we'll just refer to the facts as stated in that story, right. And of course add a little bit of our own opinion into it, which we like to do often. But yeah, you're right. So it's a 3x increase in the overall subsidy amount. From 10,000 crore rupees, it is now expected to touch 30,000 crore rupees. Now, when we were talking about the 10,000 crore rupees, 1,000 crore rupees was allocated for the charging infrastructure. Now, it was 10% of the 10,000 crore rupees allocated. Now, that ratio is likely to increase for the 30,000 crore rupee allocation. So, let's look at the numbers here. So, of course, in addition to this tripling of the 30,000 crore rupees from 10,000 crore rupees, charging infrastructure, like I said, is going to be a significant addition to what we already saw in FAME 2. Let's move on and let's look at the numbers in context now. So, the story suggests that the Ministry of Heavy Industries is yet to have a formal consultation with industry stakeholders. That process hasn't happened yet. Now, after that consultation is done, a formal proposal is going to be drawn out and then sent for cabinet approval. But from what it seems and reports that we had discussed earlier also, Shweta, it seems that the FAME subsidy now is not going to be restricted to two-wheelers alone. And there is a likelihood that this FAME subsidy will extend its wings even into four-wheelers. And we have seen four-wheelers being laggards when it comes to adoption of electric mobility. And the penetration as of last year was just about 1% or so. The government's target was to take that penetration up to 4% by end of this financial year, which is FY24. And four-wheelers, electric vehicles are likely to account for 30% of sales again by 2030. See, I told you every figure, every report, every projection has a 2030 tag to it. Right. So by 2030, 30% of our fleet of four-wheelers running in the country is likely to be electric, or is supposed to be electric as per the thrust that is being made by Niti Aayog, Ministry of Heavy Industries, etc., to really decarbonize and reduce our oil import bill that we spoke about just a few minutes back. So if we want to get to that magic figure of 4% by end of this year, this financial year, and 30% by 2030, of course, a lot more incentives will have to be added. Now, what are the areas under discussion when we talk about FAME subsidy? Of course, the FAME 2 was largely focused on end-user subsidy for electric two-wheelers. You slashed prices significantly down as much as about 40%, 45%, make it cheaper for people to own one. Now, with four-wheelers, there are multiple other facets we are talking about. It's a four-wheeler, it is likely to travel longer distances, it needs charging infrastructure. So, part of this 30,000 crore rupee allocation should go towards e-mobility, highways, charging infrastructure. Another important issue that has been discussed multiple times over is this battery swapping. Right. Now, nobody has any blueprint yet, at least in the public domain, of what this charging battery swapping facility is going to look like. I have been to a few petrol pumps which have got these battery swap kiosks available, but I've been told those are only for buses. Buses which like if you move around the streets of Delhi, you'll see these nice blue colored long DTC buses which say they are 100% electric. So as per my understanding, these fuel stations, regular petrol pumps in Delhi NCR for that matter, have only battery swapping available for the long public transport buses. Not as much yet, from what I understand, for four-wheelers. So, is there going to be more allocation towards providing for battery swapping infrastructure for four-wheelers as well as two-wheelers? So, will part of the subsidy be allocated towards battery swapping? That is number 2. Add to that, number 3, I think equally important, is this whole battery manufacturing. and localization. When you had done your story on Newsline Plus, Shweta, I think the grouse that industry had with government of India suggested that localization and institutionalizing local manufacturing, especially of batteries, was not part of the FAME scheme when it was announced. It wasn't part of the FAME 2 scheme when it got updated, and that cost part of the industry, almost 50% of the industry, quite heavily, because they were still importing batteries and putting them in their scooters and availing of the subsidy. Now that should hopefully change in FAME 3, where a good portion of this 30,000 crore rupees should go towards manufacturing of local batteries. Now this also ties in with the private sector being open to extracting lithium from Jammu and Kashmir region. So if you are able to extract lithium, if you are able to mine lithium privately, and of course there's going to be a minimum selling price, MSP, to it, and thereafter that raw material goes into localization of batteries, I think that battery industry will have to be majorly subsidized within the FAME 3 scheme. But how it pans out, when the proposal is written, what other facets the industry might have to suggest to the government, and eventually what gets approved, is something that is yet to be seen, and I think it's going to take a couple of weeks, if not a few months, before the approval for FAME 3 comes. Until then, FAME 2 continues to live in a reduced sort of manner.
And FAME 2 expected to continue until, of course, March of 2024. Which is when it ends, and hopefully FAME 3 will be rolled out. Interestingly, just to sum it up, I think the way it's going to pan out is FAME 3 is largely going to be about incentivizing not just owning of vehicles but also infrastructure. So you make it easy for people to operate a vehicle, they will start adopting it. All of this ties in with the government's attempt to bring in more electric vehicles into its fleet, and hopefully private fleet as well. The target is 30% of all vehicles in India should be electric vehicles by 2030. That is a big number to achieve.
That is 100% of two-wheelers. 100% of two-wheelers, 30% of four-wheelers. That's a big number.
That's a big number to achieve. We don't know how feasible, how viable that number is, but it's always good to have higher sort of parameters to reach out to, until of course you end up reaching somewhere.